Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the fridge. On the menu tonight, World of Tanks Premium Edition. I'm going to have a bit of a chat to you about something that was brought to my attention, and it concerns premium tanks. Check the link in the video description, pause the video and have a read. It's important that we all have the same information before I start talking about this. It would seem that Wargaming is going to be rebalancing the early premium tanks that have what we know as premium matchmaker. This is the +1 -2 matchmaker, as opposed to the regular plus and -2 that the tree tanks get. This would include tanks such as the KV-5, the IS-6 and the Type 59. I'm sure there are others, but these three spring to mind because they're what I have in my garage. Wargaming is starting with the KV-5. They intend on making the gun more competitive by increasing penetration and damage, which also gives it a nice little DPM buff. They're increasing the frontal armour by between 10 and 50mm, giving it between 190 to 220mm of protection. The well-known Radio Man's turret is getting a 50mm buff, bringing it up to 200. So far, so good. When facing tier 10 in this thing, you're going to get minced. I mean, that's just a given when you're driving a tier 8 trying to fight tier 10s. And when you're driving against tier 6s, you can laugh at their puny guns, or more likely cry at the gold spam. To balance this out, there has been a reduction in side and rear armour. The rear of the turret is down to 120mm, which is a reduction of 60. The side of the turret will be 150mm, which is a reduction of 30. There's no specific mention of the front cheeks of the turret, only the front face, and this leads me to conclude that they're going to remain at 180mm. The hull is losing 20mm, leaving 130 down the sides, and the rear armour, which has that troll bar across the back, that's going to be brought down to 95mm. Now, the rear armour nerf is neither here nor there, to be honest. But why do we need an armour nerf? We're not going to be seeing smaller tanks than we already do. And when you're shooting at tier 6s, it doesn't really have penetration problems anyway, so the extra penetration isn't a balance. One could argue that the increased damage output is a balance, but I'm not sure about that, to be honest. So this is what Wargaming is testing. And as per usual, these changes are not final, blah 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 blah. Something else that Wargaming mentions is that players will be given the option to, and I quote, exchange it for another more suitable vehicle with a small surcharge in gold. They're saying this gold amount is to be capped at 2,000. So you can keep your KV-5 or trade it in for something else. There is also a mention that owners of these tanks, such as the KV-5, will be given access to tanks not normally available through the trade-in system. So presumably, they're going to open up the number of tanks that you can trade for. But what irks me is the 2,000 gold bit. We've already paid full price for the tank, and we're going to be charged to trade it in on a different full price tank. There seems nothing more than a money grab in my eyes. They're changing the product we paid for. I don't know about where you live, but I enjoy the right to refund. And charging me 2,000 gold to swap it when they've gone and changed what it does? Yeah, come on guys. A freebie would have been good. I understand Wargaming wanting to rebalance these tanks. They're saying it causes matchmaking issues, and that may be true. I know from a user perspective it creates platooning issues because I have a premium tier 8 tank and my friend doesn't, and so my premium gets thrown into tier 10 matches anyway. I'm a bit apprehensive about this because Wargaming has a history of not getting this stuff quite right. And they've gone on record in saying that they don't like tinkering with the premium tanks. And so if they get this wrong, how long am I going to be stuck with a tank that doesn't work? all I can hope for is that they perform some exhaustive testing before they deploy these kinds of changes. The changes they have planned for the KV5 leaves me a bit worried because of the nerfs to the turret. The turret on the KV5 is big and boxy, and it already lets a lot of shells through. Not necessarily from the front, but the moment something gets around the side of you, that's it. There's no mention of mobility buffs, which when you combine that with armor nerfs, it's gonna leave you really vulnerable to fast tanks, no matter what tier you're facing. They state they don't want to make it an impenetrable fortress, which is fair. I mean, we don't need more impenetrable forces in the game. But the matchmaker changes are going to make it face bigger opponents, not smaller opponents. So why do we need an armor nerf? Like, it does make me scratch my head a bit. The forum thread, last time I checked, was at like 30 pages and counting, and there's lots of... It's the forum, you know what it's going to be full of. There are people suggesting that owners of these tanks should be given the option to a full refund. Which, yes, I'd love the option of a full refund. That way I can take the gold and do something else with it. The 3 tanks I mentioned at the start of the video, the KV5, the IS-6 and the Type 59, are all premium matchmaker tanks, and all 3 suffer from low penetration guns. I mean, we all laugh at IS-6, right? I wonder how they'd perform with nothing more than a rebalanced gun. I mean, the IS-6 has a good hull, it's just a really crap gun. Give it a good gun, make it face tier 10s. What's the drama? Just give it another BL9 clone. I mean, the Type 59 was always yelled at for being OP, so give it a gun. Give it a... Yeah, I'd like to say buff the crap out of it because I own one, but realistically, the IS-6 and the Type 59, which they have not announced any changes to yet, I think would work quite well, or well enough, with some gun buffs. I mean, the KV5, it's an interesting, unique tank. And I think just a simple gun buff and maybe a mobility buff rather than reworking all this armor would work. Because the extra armor isn't going to work against tier 10s. I mean, 190mm on the little nub on top of the turret and 200mm on the Radio Man turret. Like, that, it's round. You've always got a flat surface to shoot at. 200mm is nothing for a tier 10. You know, you're looking at a Foch 155 with damn near 300mm of penetration. I think this is where my frustration comes from, is the buffs they plan on giving it make it more durable from the front when facing opponents it already faces. And then they nerf it, the side armor and the rear armor, which makes it less effective against vehicles it already faces. I don't know, I'm a little apprehensive about this, and I just, you know, I wanted to put a bit of a video out there, have a bit of a chat about this, and just get your thoughts on this. So, let me know in the comments how you feel about this move from Wargaming. Let me know how you think one of your favourite tanks should be rebalanced. Well, I think that's enough ranting from me for now. Thank you for joining me in the fridge. As always, check the video description for links to my Twitch, Patreon and Discord, as well as to the ongoing GoFundMe for my best mate. Thanks again. I'll see you again soon.